Sirens screamed across the parking lot as three officers sprinted toward a black man in a gray vest, guns drawn, batons raised, adrenaline boiling, hands where I can see them. One shouted, "Get on the ground now." The man didn't flinch, didn't run, didn't even blink. He simply straightened his tie and looked at them with the calm, exhausted expression of someone who had lived this scene too many times before. Around them, a small crowd gathered, some recording, some whispering, others shaking their heads like they already knew how this story would end. The lead officer shoved forward, fury in his voice. "You fit the description of a car thief?" "Turn around," but the man cut him off without raising his voice. "Officer," he said slowly, "you picked the wrong man." He reached into his vest pocket, and the entire crowd gasped. Anthony Brooks stepped out of his silver sedan, the kind of calm confidence that only came from 12 years in federal service and a career built on precision, integrity, and a reputation that made criminals fold before interrogation even began. He was in town for one reason: to lead a joint federal-local task force meeting on a months-long car theft ring that had been plaguing the city. The mayor had requested him personally. The governor had approved the federal state operation, and every department involved knew one thing: Agent Brooks was the man in charge. He wore a tailored gray vest, a sky blue tie, and carried a government-issued briefing case containing files that only 6 people in America were cleared to read. He had flown in at dawn, texted his partner that he'd grab coffee before the meeting, and decided to walk the 2 blocks from the hotel to headquarters for a rare breath of morning air. What he didn't know, what he couldn't have known, was that a panicked 911 caller had just reported a black man trying to break into a luxury car, describing his exact outfit and his exact car. And that a group of officers already primed for confrontation was racing straight toward him. The officers thought this was just another routine pat down, but this time, the wrong target meant career-ending consequences. Behind the scenes, a major federal-local task force merger was underway, and every officer in the city had been warned: zero tolerance for misconduct. Every incident is being reviewed. But they didn't know the man they grabbed was the very person assigned to review them: Darius. Hayes had been in the parking lot for less than 5 minutes. The universe handed him its first test of the day: an elderly woman struggling with her grocery bags, one slipping from her trembling fingers. Before anyone else even noticed, Darius stepped forward, calm, warm-voiced, the kind of man who didn't need a bajito, do the right thing. "Let me help you, ma'am," he said gently, lifting the bags as if they weighed nothing, her eyes lit with relief. "Thank you, son. People don't slow down anymore." Behind them, a young Latino Vala Carlos watched the moment unfold. He'd seen 1,000 customers breeze past without a second glance. But this man, different, grounded, kind Carlos, stepped closer. "Smiling, sir. If you need anything today, I've got you." Darius nodded gratefully, still unaware that this small kindness would become the key witness moment that would later expose the cop's lie. Because while Darius was helping a stranger, the officers who would soon target him were watching from across the lot, and already judging him for the color of his skin, not the content of his actions. Agent Darius Cole wasn't in that parking lot by accident. For the past 3 weeks, the FBI had received a series of disturbing reports: racially targeted traffic stops, illegal impoundments of vehicles belonging to black drivers, a mysterious pattern of car theft accusations, and one officer's name appearing on every complaint: Officer Trent Malloy. Darius had been sent undercover alone. No escort. No backup to confirm whether Malloy's behavior was criminal or just another case buried under internal review. "Act like a regular driver," observed the officer's conduct. "Record everything." What Darius didn't know was that Malloy was seconds away from proving every complaint true, detonating his own career with one unlawful pat dash down. The moment he stepped toward his own car, Officer Rudick's patrol cruiser screeched to a halt, dust spraying across the pavement like shrapnel. Doors slammed. Hands hovered near holsters. Heads turned to everyone watching. It looked like a criminal caught red-handed. To him, it was Tuesday, but the cop's eyes said, "Not today." Officer Rourke stepped into view. Broad shoulders, mirrored sunglasses, and a smirk carved from pure arrogance. He didn't look at the car. He didn't look at the registration in his hand. He looked through the black man standing beside it, as if deciding what story to pin on him before asking a single question. Then he tapped his holster. "Let's make this simple. Hands where I can see them." Officer Troy Haskins didn't bother hiding the satisfaction on his face as he marched across the parking lot. Radio crackling on his shoulder, hand resting on his holster like he already knew. How this story ended, and the dozen bystanders watching thought they knew too, because the man he was stalking, Elias Ward, stood beside a sleek black sedan that looked too expensive, too polished, too out of place for someone wearing worn boots and a plain charcoal jacket. Haskins sniffed the air like a hunter. "So this, your car?" Elias didn't answer. Not yet. He simply pressed the key fob once. Soft chirp, lights blinking, doors unlocking in perfect sync. A whisper ran through the lot. He stole it. No way, that's his. Cops been looking for that model all week. Haskins smirked. He could smell the fear he assumed was there. But Elias wasn't afraid. He was calculating, he noted. 3 security cameras, all recording a mother hurrying her kid away. 2 teenage boys raising their phones, a store clerk peeking through the window, a patrol car idling at the curb. Backup waiting. Haskins stepped so close Elias could feel the heat of arrogance radiating off him. "Hands on the hood now." Elias raised an eyebrow. "I haven't been accused of anything." "Car theft," Haskins snapped. Then, loud enough for witnesses, and resisting. "Don't make it worse." Elias hadn't moved an inch. Haskins grinned wider. He loved when they didn't comply immediately. Loved the performance. Loved the audience. And right now, the parking lot was his theater. He shoved Ilias's shoulder hard, forcing him to pivot. Hands on the hood. Ilias let out a slow exhale. Not fear. Not frustration. Restraint. Measured. Controlled. Perfectly still restraint. He placed his hands on the warm metal. Feeling the engine clicking as it cooled, Haskins patted him down roughly. Hands digging, searching, punishing. "Where you headed?" He slapped pockets harder than necessary. "You joyriding? Trying to impress someone?" Phone cameras zoomed in. A teenager whispered, "Bro, he's violating him for no reason." Another replied, "Wait, why does that guy look?" Calm. Calm wasn't the right word. Elias was waiting. Haskins yanked Elias's wallet from his back pocket with a sneer. "Oh, look what we have here." He flipped it open, expecting a fake ID. A borrowed card. Something to validate his prejudice. Instead, his eyebrows twitched. Just a flicker, because tucked inside, not pulled out yet. Just visible enough was a leather credential case, federal issue. But Haskins didn't see the emblem clearly yet. Didn't understand what he was holding. Didn't realize that the ground beneath him had already started cracking. He snapped the wallet shut. "Yeah, that checks out. Probably stolen too." Ilias's jaw tightened for the first time. Not anger. Warning. Haskins resumed the pat-down. Hands sliding under the jacket, pulling at the fabric. Reveling in the humiliation. "You people always think you're smart," he muttered. "Always think you can play innocent." Elias opened his eyes slowly and looked at the reflection in the car window. He didn't see a cop doing his job. He saw a man digging a grave with his own badge. Behind them, someone whispered, "Why is he talking to him like that? He didn't even explain anything. Isn't that illegal? Record everything." Haskins leaned close to Ilias's ear. "You better pray I don't find anything." And that finally made Elias speak. Quietly, calmly, with the precision of someone who knew the next 30 seconds would flip the entire world upside down. "Officer," he said, voice level as a straight horizon, "I'm advising you to stop." Haskins froze. Only for a nanosecond, then barked a laugh. "Or what? You gonna file a complaint?" Elias didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "You're about 10 seconds away from the biggest mistake of your career." Haskins slammed a hand on the trunk, leaning over him. "Oh yeah. And why's that?" Elias tilted his head just enough to look him dead in the eyes. "'Cause you haven't even checked the front pocket of the wallet." Haskins blinked. "Wallet?" "Front pocket." He pulled it out again. Annoyed, angry, confused. He opened. It saw the badge. Went pale. In the entire parking lot watched the blood drain from his face as he realized that, truth, he wasn't patting down a car thief. He was patting down a federal agent, a very patient one, and patience had just run out. Officer Rourke shoved Marcus harder this time, hard enough that Marcus's back hit the hood of the car he legally owned, hard enough that the watching crowd gasped, hard enough that the thin line between routine check and racial assault snapped clean in half. "Spread your legs," Rourke barked, breath sour with arrogance. "You fit the description of a car thief reported earlier." Marcus didn't resist, didn't argue, didn't. He'd lift his head. He'd seen this dance before, and he knew exactly how it ended for people who looked like him. Rourke patted down his pockets aggressively, eyes burning with the kind of certainty that's only comes from prejudice disguised as confidence. "Empty." "Your pockets," the officer snapped. Marcus inhaled slowly. He could feel every eye in the parking lot on him, the man walking his dog, the mother buckling her toddler into a car seat, the college kid filming from behind a tinted window, all witnessing a moment that could ruin a man or reveal one, sir, Marcus said quietly. "Before you reach into that pocket, shut up." Rourke cut him off with a shove, fingers already digging into Marcus's jacket. "You think you can tell me what to do? You people always—" He didn't finish the sentence because his fingers touched something. Cold, not metal, rectangular, heavy with authority. His brow tightened. He pulled it out, and the world stopped. Not a wallet, not keys, not a phone, a badge, not just any badge, a deep blue federal credential case with the unmistakable raised lettering. The officer's face drained of color so fast, crowd saw it happen in real time. Marcus finally lifted his eyes, calm and steady. "I tried to warn you," he said softly. Rourke stared at the badge like it was a live explosive. His throat bobbed. His fingers trembled. Sweat broke across his forehead. "You're FBI," he whispered. Marcus didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten, didn't flex authority. He simply recited protocol. As cold and precise as a judge's gavel, "You have just conducted an unlawful search, initiated an unjustified stop, and carried out a physical pat-down without reasonable suspicion." The crowd murmured. Phones zoomed in. Someone gasped. "Oh my God. He just assaulted a federal agent." Rourke stumbled back a step. Hands shaking so violent, nearly dropped the badge, Sajant. "Listen, I didn't know." Marcus tilted his head. "That's the problem." He stepped forward, reclaiming the badge calmly. "You didn't need to know who I was to treat me like a human being." Rourke's face was white as chalk. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. And behind him, from the edge of the parking lot to unmarked federal, Sevs rolled silently into view, because they had been listening to this entire encounter in real time, the siren level. Tension wrapped around the parking lot like heat off asphalt. A voice thundered from behind the cluster of bystanders. "Caleb, what are you doing?" Everyone turned. Maria Daniels, Marcus's younger sister. A paramedic still in uniform strode across the pavement like a storm in motion. She had just ended her shift when someone sent her a clipped, breathless text. "Your brother's being searched like a criminal. Hurry." Her phone was already raised, already streaming, already gathering thousands of watchers in seconds. "Marcus, are you okay?" She didn't take her eyes off the officer. Not for a heartbeat. Officer Caleb. Holt stiffened. Recognition flickered in his eyes. Maria had treated One of his colleagues months earlier, he remembered her. He remembered her competence, her composure. But right now her gaze was pure. Wildfire, ma'am. Step back, Holt snapped, trying to sound in control and failing. This man is a suspect in a vehicle theft. A suspect, Maria repeated, incredulous. He was walking to his own car. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A teenager whispered, "Why is he still patting him down if he's saying it's just routine?" Another voice older, firmer. "This looks wrong. This looks really wrong." Holt's jaw clenched. His authority was slipping, crumbling like chalk in rain, and he knew it. "Turn off the camera," he ordered. Maria took a single step closer. Her voice was soft but dangerous in the way cold steel is dangerous before it. Pierce's no. Holt's face twitched. "Ma'am, filming an officer during an investigation is completely legal, and you know that, so don't you dare lie on camera." The live stream comments exploded. "Get his badge number? This cop is in trouble. Why is he nervous? Let him talk, what is he hiding?" Caleb swallowed hard. Sweat pooled at his temples. For the first time, he seemed to realize just how many eyes, digital and physical, were watching him unravel. Marcus, still calm, still unmoved, spoke quietly, "Officer, you should stop now. You're about to make the worst mistake of your career." Holt scoffed, a brittle sound masking dread. "And why's that?" Marcus slowly reached for his pocket, the pocket Holt hadn't checked yet. The pocket holding the truth that would end this officer's career, the pocket holding the badge that would flip this entire encounter on its head. Officer Halden's voice cracked as he tried to regain the authority that had already slipped through his fingers. He matched the description. He stammered, sweat collecting at his temples. He was acting suspicious, trying to get into a car that wasn't his. The crowd murmured. A woman whispered, "He used a key, officer." A teenager muttered, "He literally unlocked it." How is that suspicious? Halden swallowed hard, his rehearsed excuses collapsing under the weight of too many witnesses and too many cameras. Darius didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. He simply held Halden's gaze, while one hand very slowly slipped back onto his pocket. Halden flinched so violently he nearly dropped his radio. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, "He's reaching for something." And that's when the world held its breath. The moment Officer Harlan froze, staring at the FBI badge like a man seeing his own obituary, the parking lot shifted. Not physically, but atmospherically. Like the air itself realized who had been the predator and who had been the prey. But for Agent Malik Turner, this wasn't new. This wasn't surprising. It was a pattern, and patterns. He documented them for a living. He slid the badge back into his pocket slowly, not to taunt, not to gloat, but to signal something far more dangerous. The investigation had already started. Harlan swallowed hard. "Would he have that?" Who are you really?" Malik didn't answer him. Instead, he turned, calm, controlled, to the growing circle of onlookers. "Did anyone record the stop?" His voice was soft, but it carried like a command. Phones went up immediately. "I did. I got the whole thing." He didn't even ask for registration. Just grabbed him. He searched him without cause. Harlan's face drained, but the unraveling had only begun. A mechanic with grease on his hands stepped forward, anger trembling his voice. "That cop does this all the time. Last week, he accused a Latino kid of stealing his own motorcycle. The week before, pulled a woman out of her minivan and made her cry in front of her. Children," another voice chimed. He racially profiles everyone. Everyone. We filed complaints. Nothing ever happened. Malik's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened, meticulously absorbing every detail like a surgeon studying x-rays. "How many complaints?" he asked. 6. 12. More than that. People stopped reporting because nothing changed. A woman holding groceries stepped forward, voice barely steady. "My brother. He's in jail because of false charges," Harlan wrote up. "We couldn't afford a lawyer. He's been locked up for a year," her eyes filled. But she kept speaking because this was her only chance. He does this because he knows no one believes us. Because he knows the system protects him. Malik nodded once. The kind of nod that meant every single word had been logged into the case. File forming in his mind, he turned back to Harlan. Officer, Malik said quietly, do you want to revise the statement you made earlier? The one where you claimed this man matched a description? The one where you said you had probable cause to touch his body without consent and accuse him of stealing a car he legally owns? Harlan's voice broke. I didn't know. I didn't realize he was federal. Malik finished. Or didn't realize today was the day your history finally caught up to you. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, that's it. He's done. Malik stepped closer, not threatening. Not aggressive, just close enough for Harlan to understand that the distance between power and downfall was only a badge's width. You racially profiled the wrong man today, Malik said softly, but the consequences won't be just about me. He gestured to the crowd. They'll be for them. Every person you violated, every life you've damaged, every voice you tried to silence. Harlan's knees weakened. Because this wasn't a traffic stop anymore. This was a reckoning, and it had been years in the making, officer. Reynolds finally breaks. The confidence, the swagger, the smirk, all of it disintegrates the moment he realizes he didn't just stop a random black man. He stopped a federal agent whose badge alone could bury his career deeper than any IA report could. The parking lot holds its breath. Devin doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't point fingers. He doesn't gloat. He simply speaks with the calm, brutal precision of a man who has testified in federal courts more times than this. Officer has written tickets. Officer Reynolds, he says. Do you remember the oath you took? Reynolds swallows hard. Visible. To serve and protect, he mutters. No, Devin replies softly. That's the slogan. He steps closer. Not threatening, just close enough that Reynolds can't escape the truth. The oath, Devin continues, is to uphold the Constitution, to defend civil rights, to use your authority with integrity, not bias, not ego, not fear. Reynolds' eyes dart to the watching crowd, searching for an exit, a distraction. A lifeline there is none. Devin's words cut deeper than any reprimand. You didn't stop me because you suspected a crime. You stopped me because you saw a black man getting into a car that looked too expensive. A whisper rolls through the bystanders, Devin continues. You didn't pat me down for officer's safety. You did it because you assumed I didn't belong here. Another blow lands, clean, surgical, undeniable, and worst of all, Devin pauses, letting the silence carry the judgment the crowd already feels. You were more interested in asserting power than in learning the truth. Reynolds' breathing shudders. His hands tremble. His face drains too. Devin steps back once. Oath versus reality, he says. And today, your reality betrayed the oath. Reynolds knows. In that moment, his career is no longer in his hands. It's in Devin's. And Devin hasn't decided his fate yet. The silence after that badge reveal didn't just sit in the air, choked it. Officer Denton stood frozen, hands still hovering where he'd been reaching for his cuffs. Face draining of Caleres, the letters FBI, burned into his vision. But the nightmare for him had only begun, because Special Agent Elijah Ward didn't raise his voice, didn't puff his chest, didn't threaten. He simply took one slow step forward. Officer Denton, Elijah said, voice calm enough to terrify a guilty man. You are going to remove your hand from my pocket. Very carefully, Denton jerked back as if burned, his bravado evaporating like steam on hot pavement. The bystanders a few minutes ago, whispering suspicion about a black man near a luxury car now, stared in stunned disbelief. One man muttered, Oh no, he messed with the wrong one. Another whispered, he really just patted down an FBI agent. For stealing his own car? Elijah didn't address the crowd. He kept his eyes locked on the officer, just violated every protocol in the book. Step back from the vehicle, Elijah instructed. His tone wasn't loud. It didn't need to be authority spoken quietly. It's harder than threats screamed aloud. Denton stumbled backward, boots scraping against the parking lot asphalt, desperate to regain a sense of control. I didn't know, Denton stammered. You people, I mean people. You didn't look. I mean you weren't. Every word dug him deeper, every syllable exposed. The rot beneath the uniform. Elijah tilted his head. You're going to want to choose your next sentence very carefully. Denton swallowed so hard the sound was audible. His partner, Officer Mills, finally stepped forward. Hands up, palms out, trying to salvage what was left of the situation. Sir, maybe we can talk in private, Mills said. No need to make this a bigger deal. Elijah cut him off with a single raised hand. Bigger deal? He stepped closer. You illegally detained me. Accused me of stealing my own vehicle, performed a non-consensual pat-down, and reached into a federal agent's jacket while armed. Mills froze. The crowd recorded every word, phones out, eyes wide. Capturing a reversal none of them would forget. Then Elijah did something that made Denton collapse inside. He reached into his coat slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a second badge, silver, heavy and unmistakable. This, Elijah said, is my federal authority. He leaned in just enough for Denton to feel the heat of truth. And as of this moment, you're the one being investigated. Denton's knees weakened because the parking lot had stopped being a crime scene. It had become his interrogation room. For a long, breathless moment, nobody moved. The officers stood frozen in mid-stride, batons raised, cuffs ready. Faces twisted with the kind of anger trained on autopilot. But the second the black man in the gray vest reached into his pocket, every pair of eyes locked onto the motion, phones tilted upward, cameras zoomed. The crowd leaned in as if watching a live explosion slowly unfold in front of them. And Agent Daniel Carter, with a calmness that felt almost surgical, pulled out the small leather case. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't rush. He didn't posture. He simply flipped the badge open between his fingers. Like a quiet verdict descending from the sky, the gold shield caught the sunlight bright. Undeniable, the kind of symbol that erased doubt instantly. FBI, Department of Counterintelligence. Federal Authority, Level 7 clearance. A collective. Gasp rippled outward, as if the entire parking lot inhaled at the same time. The baton in Officer Hale's hand lowered an inch. His face drained to a shade between chalk and ghost. Behind him, Officer McKinley, the one who'd yelled the loudest, let his cuffs slide from his fingers and hit the pavement with a faint metallic clink. He didn't even try to pick them up. The rookie officer circled in the thumbnail photo. He stumbled back a step, his lips moving silently as if praying he was dreaming. But Carter wasn't done. He didn't wave the badge around. He didn't shove it in their faces. He simply stepped forward, voice deep, steady, heavy with the authority of a man who could end their careers with a sentence. You laid hands on a federal officer, Carter said, every word landing like a hammer made of ice. You attempted to detain me without cause. You escalated without investigation. You used force while ignoring procedure, training, and federal protocol. Let it sink in, and all of it, he added, was recorded. The officers blinked, some at the badge, some at the phones, some at the sky, as if waiting for divine intervention, but none came. Carter reached into his inner pocket, pulled out a second item, a small black card with a silver strip and a hologram seal, field authorization credential. When activated, it sent a signal directly to the federal database, an alert that demanded a mandatory review of any officer who obstructed or assaulted the cardholder. Carter pressed his thumb to the surface. The card glowed blue. Every officer's radio crackled at once. Dispatch voices turned frantic, tense, confused. All units do not engage. Repeat, do not engage. Federal alert triggered. Stand down immediately. Officer Hale turned a shade paler. McKinley looked like he might vomit on his boots. Carter continued, voice still dangerously calm. You had a moment to check who I was. You had a moment to verify the vehicle. You had a moment to de-escalate. You ignored all three. He leaned in slightly, not aggressive, but with the quiet dominance of someone who spends his days interrogating men who think they're untouchable. You didn't pick the wrong man's car, he said. Softly, you picked the wrong man. Behind Carter, the crowd erupted. Murmurs of shock, outrage, vindication. One woman whispered, "Oh my God, they're done," teenager muttered. "This is going viral." Officers didn't breathe because they understood something now. Something cold, final, and career-ending. This wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a federal case, and every second of it was already on record. The courtroom overflowed, not because anyone had been invited, but because word travels fast when an entire police department is caught on camera trying to arrest the wrong man. A man with an FBI badge in his vest pocket. Every seat was taken. The aisles were jammed. Reporters lined the walls, shoving microphones forward as if they could catch justice in their fists. Outside, protesters chanted. Inside, the air vibrated with tension. Special Agent Marcus Hale stepped forward. Calm, composed, hands clasped behind his back. He didn't need to raise his voice. The truth raised it for him. Judge Ramirez adjusted her glasses, looked over the stack of files in front of her, then lifted her eyes to the defendants, a line of uniformed officers, who once shouted and charged with confidence, but now sat slumped, wearing the same terror they once forced onto others. Before I issue my ruling, the judge said calmly, this court will acknowledge the actions that led to today's proceedings. A massive screen flickered on. The courtroom gasped. There it was again, the footage seen by millions online. Officer Dent, shoving Marcus against the hood of a car. Officer Klein reaching for his baton. Officer Rivera screaming, "Put your hands where I can see them," as if his own adrenaline had drowned out common sense. And then, Marcus revealing his FBI badge. The moment everything flipped, the moment their authority dissolved, the moment the world stopped forgiving mistakes. The screen froze on their faces. Wide-eyed, snarling, unhinged with bias. The judge folded her hands. Excessive force. Abuse of power. Violation of civil rights. And the intent to escalate violence toward an unarmed federal agent? The officers shifted in their seats. Their bravado evaporated. But Judge Ramirez wasn't done. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a miscommunication. This was targeted profiling from individuals entrusted with public safety. Reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras clicked. Every word was oxygen for a nation starving for accountability. Officer Dent stammered, "Why, Your Honor? We thought he was a criminal," the judge finished coldly. For the same reason, countless innocent people have been harassed, beaten, or worse. Dent lowered his head. Members of the public wiped tears. Others shook with a quiet, exhausted rage. The judge continued. Agent Hale showed restraint that your entire unit failed to demonstrate. And had he not been who he was, we would be here under far deadlier circumstances. Silence. Not one officer dared breathe. Therefore, Judge Ramirez declared, Officers Dent, Klein, and Rivera are hereby stripped of badge and rank. Effective immediately, you are barred from future law enforcement employment. Gasps exploded through the room. Their careers gone. Their identities shattered. Their power revoked. And, she continued, based on the evidence submitted, you will face federal prosecution for civil rights violations and attempted assault on a federal agent. A wail escaped Klein's throat. Rivera's hands shook violently. Dent stared straight ahead. Hollowed out, but justice wasn't finished. A door opened at the back of the courtroom. A procession of federal investigators walked in, each holding folders, tablets, and sealed documents. The lead agent spoke. We have reopened every case touched by these officers in the last 7 years. Any unlawful arrest, any coerced confession, any buried complaint will be exposed. A ripple of relief swept across the room from people who had been ignored for years. Marcus stood motionless, but the determination in his eyes felt stronger than any badge he carried. Judge Ramirez turned to him. Agent Hale, you have shown remarkable discipline and integrity. Your complaint has paved the way for major reforms. This court commends your service." For the first time all day, Marcus nodded in acknowledgement. Not pride, not victory, just resolve. Because justice was finally moving forward. But there was more to fix. Much more, as the officers were led away in handcuffs. The crowd erupted, not in celebration, but in a powerful, united release of pain, exhaustion, and hope. Outside, the chants grew louder. Inside, Marcus exhaled slowly. The system had tried to break him. Instead, he had forced it to wake up, and the world was watching. Sirens faded into a distant humas. The police chief arrived on scene not with authority, but with the heavy, dragging steps off a man who already knew his department had just stepped into a gravity. Dug themselves. Cameras clicked. Phones streamed. News vans screeched to a stop. A circle of officers formed. But none dared step forward, not after seeing the badge, not after hearing the name, because now the truth was circulating. Spreading like wildfire across timelines and group chats, they tried to arrest an FBI supervisory agent, he warned them. They ignored him. "This is going to ruin careers." Crowds gathered at the barricades, blocking the afternoon sun with raised phones, each second capturing angles of shame the department would never scrub from the internet. Agent, lost in the man they tried to detain, stood, calm at the center of the storm. Vest tidy, tie straight, as if he had already accepted. Today's chaos was simply another case file to process. The police chief whispered harshly to the offending officers. But whispering couldn't save them. Whispering couldn't hide. Incompetence. Whispering couldn't stop what was coming next. Lawson finally turned his head, locking eyes with the chief. "I requested backup," he said quietly, voice slicing through the tension, not harassment. The chief swallowed hard. "Agent Lawson, with this was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Lawson echoed, tilting his head with the cold precision of a man used to testifying under oath. "You racially profiled a federal agent, ignored identification, ignored procedure, ignored the law, and escalated force while I complied." Murmurs rippled through the crowd like sparks across dry grass. Lawson reached into his jacket, pulled out a white envelope, and pressed it against the chief's chest. "This," he said, "is the official complaint. The Department of Justice already has a copy, internal. Affairs is being notified, and as of this moment," his words paused as if allowing the crowd to inhale the final blow. "You and every officer involved a dare, temporarily relieved of field duty pending federal review." Gasps erupted. Some officers stiffened. Others stepped back as though suspended by invisible strings. The cop who first laid hands on Lassen stumbled backward like a man hearing his sentence read. The baton slipped from his grip. It hit the asphalt with a hollow, humiliating clatter. Reporters swarmed the edges. "Agent Lawson, do you plan to sue the department? Was this racial profiling? Will charges be filed? Is the mayor aware? Is the FBI issuing a statement?" Lawson didn't answer. He simply adjusted his vest, straightened his cuffs, and walked toward the line of unmarked federal cars, a wall of tinted glass and silent engines. As he passed the cameras, he spoke a single lineth that would replay on millions of screens before nightfall. Accountability isn't revenge, it's correction. And with that, the man they tried to shame Beckham, the man the whole nation now defended. The news broke faster than anyone could breathe. Within 8 minutes, the video of Officer Randall slamming an innocent black man against a car, only to discover that man was Special Agent Daniel Haynes of the FBI. Hit 2.3 million views. Every major outlet grabbed it. Local stations replayed it. National anchors dissected every second. What was supposed to be a simple stop and frisk turned into the melting of an entire department's reputation, and the world wanted answers. The first collapsed the police DPARTA Mantee by noon. The precinct parking lot looked like a funeral for a dying empire. City attorneys, IA investigators, the police commissioner, all scrambling at once. Reporters swarmed the steps. Why was excessive force used? Why did officers draw batons on an unarmed man? Is racial profiling standard procedure here? Should the sergeant resign? The commissioner's face carried the look of a man. His entire kingdom was being taken brick by brick. He approached the microphones. As of this morning, officers Randall, Pierce, and Gomez have been placed on immediate leave pending federal review. The reporter shouted back, "Sir, the FBI claims this is not just an internal matter. This is a civil rights probe." He froze. That was supposed to come out tomorrow. The crowd exploded, and somewhere behind them, 3 officers who once strutted like gods now shrank like shadows, their badges still warm, their careers already cold. The second collapsed city, HAL Mayor Donovan, once proud to endorse tough policing, now found himself cornered beneath a wall of TV screens playing one repeating clip. Randall yelling, "Hands where I can see them." Daniel responding calmly, "You're detaining the wrong man." And the earth-shattering moment he opened his vest pocket, and the gold FBI badge gleamed like a verdict. The mayor groaned into his palms. This is going to cost millions. And he was right. Civil rights lawyers lined up like sharks, circling a sinking ship. Activists prepared lawsuits. Donors demanded to know how their money funded brutality. And the mayor knew. One misstep, and he would be the next headline. The third collapse officer, Randall's LIFA at home. Randall sat alone at the edge of his couch, staring blankly at the TV, replaying his worst moment on loop. His wife's voice trembled from the kitchen. "You told me you did nothing wrong." He didn't answer. "How do you explain this?" She pointed at the screen. His own voice screamed back at him, "Get on the ground!" The world had seen a bully, a racist, a man who went out of his way to dominate instead of protect. His phone buzzed. Non-stop, not with support, with threats, mockery, memes, news alerts, legal notices. His breath came in short bursts. His career was gone. His pension was gone. His reputation was radioactive. And now, even inside his home, he wasn't welcome. The fourth collapse, the UNIO, the police union president stormed into headquarters, red-faced and sweating. "You let this get out of hand?" He shouted at the commissioner, but the commissioner didn't yell back. He simply turned his laptop toward him, showing a message from the U.S. Attorney's Office. "Federal oversight of your department begins immediately." The union president's voice faltered. This wasn't a bad headline. This wasn't a suspension. This was takeover, and everyone knew what that meant: tiers of audits, policy overhauls, mandatory retraining, medical evaluations, termination waves, possible criminal charges. The union president sank into a chair. He finally understood. The era of protecting their own had ended. The fifth collapse, public OPI-owned crowds marched downtown, posters rose. FBI agent. Not a thief stopped the brutality, accountability. Now drivers honked. News vans blocked intersections. Helicopters orbited overhead. The community didn't just want the officers gone. They wanted the entire system rebuilt. Parents who once taught their kids to trust the police now whispered warnings instead. Stores pulled funding. Schools canceled police partnerships. Local leaders demanded reforms. The police were no longer the authority. They were the accused. The sixth collapse. Federal CIO and CQSAEs. FBI headquarters. Assistant Director Monroe reviewed the videos again. Then he looked at Daniel. "We are filing a full federal complaint. Civil rights violations, unlawful detainment, excessive force, false statements, endangerment of a federal agent." Paused. "You ready to testify?" Daniel nodded slowly. He never wanted this. He never wanted to be the center of a firestorm. But the moment that officer slammed him against the car, something snapped that he could never snap. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about every man who never got the chance to say, "You stopped the wrong person." The final collapse, Randall's RALISATON by evening, Randall sat outside the station, head hanging, hands trembling. One last reporter approached him. "Officer Randall, do you have anything to say to the public?" For the first time all day, he didn't yell. He didn't bluster. He didn't bark orders. His voice cracked. I didn't check who he was. Silence. It was the closest he'd ever come to saying the truth, but it didn't matter. The world had already delivered its verdict. And now every man who once feared him, every community he once dismissed, every young black boy who once crossed the street when he approached, now watched him fall. They picked the wrong man. And finally, everyone knew it. The courtroom felt colder than the air outside. Not because of the temperature, but because of the silence. Officer Ryan Hale sat stiffly at the defendant's table, hands clasped, jaw trembling, eyes fixed on the polished floor as if the wood could save him. His badge was gone. His gun was gone. His uniform was gone. Only the weight of what he'd done remained. Judge Whitmore flipped through the documents in front of him, arrest reports, body cam transcripts, phone footage from stunned bystanders. And the official complaint submitted by the man Hale had humiliated. The man Hale had racially profiled, patted down, shoved, mocked, and accused of stealing his own car. The man who had calmly pulled out an FBI, badged on, changed the officer's life forever. Hale's attorney whispered, "Look up. Show remorse." He did. But his eyes carried the truth. Remorse wasn't what consumed him. Fear was. Judge Whitmore closed the folder. He took a long breath, one that made the entire gallery lean forward. "Officer Hale," he began, "you abused your authority. You violated procedure. You falsified statements. You detained a federal agent without cause. And you escalated the situation in ways that could have ended in tragedy." Each sentence landed like a hammer. Hale winced with every word. "You justified your actions through fear," the judge said. "Yet the investigation proved something important. You were not afraid for your safety." He paused. "You were afraid of losing control." Hale's throat bobbed. And today the judge continued. "You are losing it," the gallery murmured. Judge Whitmore raised his hand for silence. "Sentencing will reflect both accountability and the hope of rehabilitation. I cannot and will not ignore the severity of your actions." He looked directly at Hale. "Officer Ryan Hale, you are hereby sentenced to 8 months in a correctional training facility, 200 hours of community service, mandatory bias reduction and psychological training, and permanent ineligibility for law enforcement service." The room gasped. Hale's face drained to paper white. 8 months behind walls. A lifetime barred from a badge. His attorney slumped. But the judge wasn't finished. "You will also deliver a public statement of accountability to be shared at the National Policing Ethics Conference. Your story will serve as a warning and as a lesson." Hale's breath hitched. "No. No, Your Honor, please." Judge Whitmore's voice turned to steel. Sentence delivered. A sharp echo. A final ending. A punishment that would follow Hale longer than a prison term ever could. He was led away, wrists trembling in handcuffs. The gallery watched in stunned, cold silence, the same silence that had filled the parking lot when Hale shoved an innocent black man against a car and said, "People like you don't drive cars like this." Those words would haunt him. Forever. 1 year later, summer sunlight, built across a modern office building, lined with mirrored glass and secure keycard doors. Inside, Agent Derek Lawson, the man Hale had profiled, walked through the halls with calm authority. In the last year, his career had skyrocketed. After the incident went viral, the Bureau assigned him to a leadership program. His composure, restraint, and refusal to escalate in the face of discrimination were used as a national training model. He now headed a task force focused on reform, accountability, officer-citizen relations. Colleagues nodded with respect as he passed. He had become a symbol not of anger, but of transformation, justice, and a better path forward. But Derek rarely spoke about the humiliation he'd endured that day. He didn't need to. The footage said everything. He carried the memory quietly, not as a scar, but as a mission at a youth center downtown. A dozen teenagers sat gathered around him as he shared stories, taught conflict management, and helped guide young black boys who feared exactly what he'd lived through. The kids listened like he was telling them secrets of survival, because he was. One boy asked, "Sir, weren't you mad when that cop did that to you?" Derek thought for a moment. "I was," he answered softly, "but anger won't protect you." Paused. "Knowledge will. Composure will, and knowing your worth will." The boy nodded slowly. Derek smiled. "Your value isn't measured by someone else's ignorance." Later that evening, Derek stood outside the youth center, sunset burning the sky, orange and gold. Maria, his sister, joined him on the steps. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "I'm good." "Hard seeing his name in the news again," she said gently. Derek exhaled. "It's strange. I don't hate him. I don't even want revenge. I just want fewer people like him with the power to ruin someone's life." Maria squeezed his arm. "You're changing things, Derek. More than you realize." He looked out at the street, people walking, talking, laughing, unaware of the quiet revolutions happening around them. "Maybe," he whispered, "and maybe that's enough." He walked toward his car, the same car Officer Hale tried to arrest him for stealing. But tonight, when he opened the door, there was no fear, only purpose, only calm, only the knowledge that justice didn't always come quickly. But when it did, it came like sunrise, slow, inevitable, blinding. The camera would close on Derek's face, strong, steady, unshaken. A man who didn't raise his voice, didn't fight back, didn't lash out. He simply let the truth speak. It's louder than anything else, and it did. If this story moved you, if you believe in accountability, justice, and dignity, don't leave without joining our community. Hit subscribe. Tap the notification bell. Share this video so more people see the truth sometimes. The greatest power is staying calm while the world tries to shake you.